What's the reaction to new Donkey Kong Land? It's all the excitement of Donkey Kong Country. Now on Game Boy.
Hey kids, this is your brain on drugs.
There's something you don't see every day.
Man, I'll never forget the day my grandma got me a used Game Boy from a local flea market. It wasn't even a special occasion or anything, I guess she just felt like blowing my little skeleton mind that day. Can you guess what game came with it? It was Dr. Mario, and I played the crap out of that game. Almost made myself carsick on the ride home from the flea market. I gotta hand it to my grandparents, when they got me new games for that thing, not once did they toss me some bargain bin trash like George Foreman's KO Boxing. That's literally like the second thing I saw when I googled bad Game Boy games. Isn't it the guy that made those grills? But yeah, they'd get me games like Super Mario Land and Kirby's Dream Land. Both really good, they kept me well entertained. But then came that awesome Christmas morning when I got Donkey Kong Land. With its awesome yellow cartridge and flying pigs on the box art. This game is awesome. And I don't mean awesome in that it's an excellent alternative if you can't afford a Super Nintendo. I mean it's up there with the best Game Boy games. It's my personal favorite side-scroller on the system. And I haven't even played Donkey Kong Land 2, which I've heard plays even better. Alright, let's get into the game. Ah man, you have no idea how comfy that music is for me. And don't you worry, you bet your ass I'm going to be talking about the music later. I'll be playing this on an emulator for a number of reasons. Fuck off Nintendo, I bought the game, it's right here on my 2DS. The best part about using an emulator is I can do this. That's right kids, this is what we had to deal with back in the day. You know, if I really wanted to be a dick, I'd make it look like this. Us Game Boy owners, we remember the games fondly, not the hardware. Starting with the first level here, and since these don't have names like in DKC, I'm just gonna think up my own. So here we got Bungle in the Jungle. You can see some concessions had to be made to squeeze a Donkey Kong game onto the Game Boy, still an impressive effort. They removed the ground pound from country, and if you actually care because you would use it, then you're a fucking liar. Right off the bat, you pick up one of these spinning coins that's not quite an extra life. Not yet, anyway. You'll see later. Moving right along, and the game feels good. Responsive and tight controls. Flows about as well as a DK game should. You still get your easy bonus levels and your Kong letters, and since rendering two characters moving at once would be too tough for the Game Boy, you just press the select button to switch to your partner. Finishing a level with all 4 Kong letters lets you save the game. One of those classic issues that parents never understood back in the day. Moving on to level 2, and since I can, I'll be switching between a few different color palettes as we go. Nintendo hates options, man. You can't even rebind the controls for the 3DS eShop version. Remember how in DKC you didn't see your first snow level until World 4? Not so in this game. Baked Alaska, the level that introduces the flying pigs that you saw in the box art, and some light ice physics that aren't really a problem. Why are these snakes here? Wouldn't they die in the cold? Level 3, or as I like to call it, the humidity is 100%, oh my god, why, I hate the jungle. Jump on this Kremling here, get up in the trees, and fuck. Just blasting through this game the same way I did when I was a kid. Flawlessly. What can I say, old habits are hard to break. Moving on to Titanic Panic, a ship level that shows some of the inspiration that went into the first level of DKC 2. Appropriate since this game came out 5 months before that one. These levels change things up nicely by adding a lot of vertical movement. You finish it off by picking up an explosive barrel that lets you choose which way you want to go on the world map. I usually go right, so let's go down this time, leading us to Jumpin' Jehoshaphat Another Jungle. That's the name I came up with. Oh, you thought I was taking this seriously. Not much to say here, it might actually be even easier than the first level. There's a nice little bonus room here with a bunch of potential lives. I really like playing this game in black and white. Reminds me of watching the Three Stooges. Next up is Talk Ship, Get Hip. The first level to actually offer any sort of challenge. Not challenging in that it's difficult, it's just that it's such an absurdly long level to get through. You can jump on this pig here to reach a barrel that'll blast you through the first 10% of the level. I like how they put this one little bird in the sky to try and break up the massive nothingness. Absolutely majestic. And yeah, I'm gonna be using a few save states. I've beaten this game at least a dozen times, I've earned the right to mitigate some of the bullshit. Speaking of bullshit, If you get hit in midair and fall off the screen, it doesn't matter if your partner is available, you still lose a life. Not terribly annoying, but it will happen enough times that it warrants a mention. If you pay attention, you can jump up here with this tire and find a secret checkpoint with some bananas and potential extra lives. I'm gonna backtrack a bit to the level that I didn't choose earlier. Snow Blow Joe, another snow level with lots of horizontal moving ropes and your first chance to spend those coins in a minigame. One that I find incredibly annoying. Sometimes I can get into the rhythm with it, but most of the time the coins just fly right past me. Either way, I come out with a maxed out life count. Even though this game does keep track of extra lives beyond what this shows, this will be maxed out for the rest of my playthrough. The instruction book brags about how DK Land doesn't clutter the screen with a score counter or anything like that, and yet a good bit of the bottom here is taken up by a life counter that really isn't necessary. Why couldn't a life counter just show up in the corner like in Donkey Kong Country? Maybe Rare had to shrink the screen a bit to make things work properly, and just decided to use that empty real estate as a life counter. Did you ever watch that little trailer for when DK Land was put on the 3DS store? Just look at that life count. What games journalist was playing this? Okay, I'm starting to think that joke might be low-hanging fruit at this point. Next up, what is this, the 4th jungle level? I'm all out of jungle names. Nothing really notable about this one. Here we've got Frozen Monkey Nuts, one of those levels that involves a lot of barrel blasting. You know, kinda like this level, except without the incredible impatience and desire to quit. Who the fuck thought this level was a good idea? It's terrible. You can see here I deliberately skip over the second barrel onto the third, like the boss-ass skeleton that I am. And then I run right into a bee. Also, I'm not sure where I missed the end, but whatever. I never really made an effort to 100% this game. You guys want to see one of the easiest boss fights ever? Watch me sting this ray without even touching the run button. God damn, I love that boss music. Which segues nicely onto World 2, where the music starts to get really fucking good. Most people remember the first Donkey Kong Country as having a good soundtrack, and yeah, it absolutely does. But can you hum a melody from most of the levels? I doubt it, because the majority of that soundtrack was very atmospheric, with any present melody being very subdued. Ironically, the game's most memorable track was the one with ambiance in the title. This is the best song on the Super Nintendo. I know that's a bold statement, but don't even try to fight me on this. Now, obviously the Game Boy is incapable of this complex atmospheric style of music, but it's really good at pumping out rockin' chip tunes. So let's compose some unique tracks that really set this game apart from its SNES counterpart. When you give a track a catchy melody, it becomes so much more memorable. And just from the sheer number of tracks in this game that I love over DKC, I'd have to say that DK Land has the better soundtrack. That's another bold statement, and you are welcome to fight me on it in the comments. I've talked enough about the music, so if you're a fan of chiptunes, you've definitely got to check out this soundtrack on YouTube. Next up is Tapwater Temple, a more straightforward left-to-right affair from the water levels in DKC, with pillars in the foreground that block your view and can sometimes hide goodies. Watch out for fish and these clapping clams and you're good to go. God, I love this soundtrack. Okay, I'm sorry, I'll stop. Sometimes the end of a level is not always the end. We've got another water level next, one that does a decent job of replicating the water levels from DKC and chiptunifying aquatic ambiance. Gonna call this one Ocean of Puke, since I felt like playing a level with the old color palette. Don't worry, it'll be the only time. Nothing too unexpected here if you've played DKC. I do mourn the absence of On Guard, but at least we get Rambi and Espresso in a few levels. I only just learned while making this video that you don't need to hold down the run button to swim faster. Feels like I should have figured that out a long time ago, but whatever. Next up is the Temple of Activision. I call it that because of all the snakes.
And that's all I have to say about that.
Next up is, whoa, giant clam! We got Sea Salt Bananas. I know this is optional since I already picked up the explosive barrel in the previous level, but why wouldn't I play it? I really like these more straightforward water levels. Wish DKC had tried something like this. Really nice color palette for this level too. Now it's time for Nemesis. This is a water level that sicks this creature called Nemo on you at certain intervals. Doesn't bother me at all as an adult since I've played it so many times, but as a kid, yeah, kinda freaked me out a little. I don't do well with being pursued in video games. It's why I've never played RE3. Who am I kidding? I couldn't play any of the Resident Evil games as a kid.
Oh my god!
Last level before the boss, this is Titty Twister Temple. You gotta jump on these tornadoes that follow you around and hurt you if they touch you from the side. Somehow I died by rolling down this hill right into a tornado. Kinda janky. Another pretty easy level, but not as easy as this boss fight against a shelter. Bounces pearls back at him 6 or 7 times and he's done. Technically another boss fight that I beat without touching the run button. Time for World 3, home of the worst level in this game. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Next is the Caves of Katy Perry. Lots of squeezing through tight spaces and rolling tires around to desired locations. All of that really funky music track. Kinda blows the original out of the water, doesn't it? Man, even as a kid, this guy always reminded me of Hulk Hogan. Increasing our altitude up into Candy Mountain, which has yet another standout music track. Like the ship levels, these have a lot of ascending back and forth to reach the level. Very thematic, I like it. It's also one of the few levels that gives you an animal buddy, Rambi in this case. You get knocked off him when you get hit, and since you can't get back on till after your post-hit invincibility wears off, I actually end up getting hit by these boulders a couple times. Also, be careful about entering bonus levels, since you'll lose your animal buddy if you do. Continuing with our ascension through this world, and there's only one thing higher than a mountain. The clouds. Screw physics, we on Game Boy, motherfuckers. Despite the fact that I like the aesthetic and I really like the music, how it's this nice little upbeat theme with a chugging sound in the background to go with the theme of conveyor belts, I don't much like these levels. You're gonna see me save scum a lot to get through these. And this isn't even the bad one. You'll see. Back down to terra firma, and we've got Katy Perry's Candy Caverns. Nothing too special about this one, just lots of spinning spike tires to avoid. Well, it's time. If I was a drinker, this is where I would break out the whiskey. Cloud Cunts. The cloud level that is a cunt. Worst level in this game by a mile. I fucking hate it. This whole level is nothing but standing on these slow-moving platforms and altering its direction by jumping. Aside from being mind-numbingly boring, this is a level that really showcases how the Game Boy's small screen can cause you problems. Why do you think the sprites in the original Super Mario Land were so small? Sure, they were bigger in the sequel, but that came with a radical change in game design so that it wouldn't be a problem. Here, let me put it like this. Even in Donkey Kong Country, the game that you played on a TV, sometimes the screen size would be a problem. So you can imagine how it's not much better here. Oh man, putting that mess of a level behind me. Time for another trip through the mountains with Appalachian Avalanche. Oh, goddamn you, Donkey, with your stupidly high throwing arc. Pretty standard level with lots of high jumps off tires and enemies. Refreshing as hell after what I just went through. Now for the last level before the boss, and thankfully, it's a cloud level that isn't a slog to play. Heavenly Apes forces you to move quickly over disappearing clouds, but you can invalidate most of the challenge by hanging onto Espresso near the beginning. Just stay out of the bonus barrels and this level is a breeze. Geez, why couldn't all the cloud levels have been like this? On to the third boss, and it's one that I actually took a hit on. Not sure what happened, maybe I was scratching my nose or something. Just avoid the hard hat when he throws it and then bonk his noggin. I like to think this is supposed to prepare you for the final battle with K. Rool. We're now at the last world, and the one that really sets this game apart from DKC, which got pretty industrial near the end if you can remember. But here, we're just straight up in a city, and I love it. This world is a treat for players that made it this far. First up is Sin City. Right at the start, you just jump to the left off this balloon and... Oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Really fun level with really good music. But man, if I looked out my apartment window and I saw a chimpanzee get killed by an armadillo, I think I'd consider abandoning my lease agreement. Oh sweet, another bonus barrel. What the f- Avoid the bonus barrels in this level. Next we're going back to the sky, but this time in a blimp. Here we've got Aerospace Apes. Yes, I totally stole that name from Tiny Barbarian's soundtrack. Little spoiler for a future review there. This is a cool level. You start off thinking that the game is giving you a free save by having all 4 Kong letters right at the start, but then you hit this button and... It's great because you can actually get away with missing a letter or two on some of these sections. What a neat little mechanic. Also, I really like the scrolling background. Gives the stage some character. Next up is Funk Yard, running across the steel beams of a construction site and rolling drums down slopes. Thematically satisfying, but mechanically nothing special. On to Air Raid Rock, another blimp level where if you hit this hole just right near the start, you can finally cash in those extra life coins that you've been building up for a while. Obviously, I don't have to because you gotta do some more barrel blasting here that I've never really been a big fan of. This level actually got me to use a save state again. Next level is Slick Sticks. You have to traverse these rods that move you up or down. I remember an ice cave level in DKC having a similar mechanic. Actually died a few times here due to the screen crunch again. This bee has gotta be unavoidable on your first time through here. Time for Deconstruction Junction. You gotta hit these buttons to change where the barrels are pointing. That's about it. Alright, last level of the game, and it's a bit of an endurance. I call this one monkey bread because you're gonna get baked a few times by these oil drums. The timing on these things is tight, much tighter than I've seen in other alternating hazards in video games. Keep your wits about you, be patient, and you'll make it to K. Rool, the final boss. Hardest boss in the game, but that's not saying much. He did manage to surprise me a couple times, but compared to that fight in DKC, this is child's play. Bonk him a bunch of times, and just like that, the king is dead, and you've beaten a really good Game Boy game. 81% complete in just under an hour and a half. I don't know if you get something for 100%ing it, and I don't really care to find out. In fact, as a kid, I lost the chance to find out, because after I had played this game so many times and had gotten bored of it, I traded it to some kid I didn't know for Battletoads Double Dragon. I liked it well enough, I suppose, but that was not a good trade, and I still kick myself for it. Anyway, thought I'd try something a little different for this video. Let me know if you liked it, and I'll be back with another review of a hidden gem here on the Bone Zone. But until then, this is A Skeleton, signing out.